Hello everyone! Welcome to my book talk presentation. My name is Grace Olson and I am excited to share with you 3 books that I enjoyed and hope you will enjoy just as much as I did. The first of these is Paperboy by Vince Vaughter. The second is Claudette Colvin, Twice Towards Justice by Philip Hughes. And the third is Courage Has No Color, the true story of the Triple Nickels, America's first black paratroopers by Tanya Lee Stone. Let's get started, shall we? Can you imagine riding your bike around town throwing newspapers every day for an entire week? Well, that's what the hero of this story had to do in 1959 Memphis, Tennessee. This book is Paperboy by Vince Vaughter. The main character is a boy who is 11 years old, who loves to play baseball, and has a stutter, which makes his weekly door-to-door visits to collect newspaper fees quite a challenge. Along the way, he meets some interesting characters and even ends up in some sticky situations. To top it off, you will never know what the boy's real name is unless you finish the book. This is a fun, gripping, and at times frightening read. There are 3 things I really enjoyed about this book. First of all, I loved the characters, especially Ma'am, who is the boy's family housekeeper. Ma'am is like a mom to the boy, and so their relationship is at times heartwarming and hilarious. The second thing I enjoyed about this book is the element of adventure. I have always loved reading adventure stories, so the fact that there is a robbery, there are threats made, and even a fist fight made it an exciting read. The third thing I enjoyed about this book was the setting. I love to read historical fiction, so the fact that the book is set in a southern town during segregation really intrigued me. I highly recommend that you pick up Paperboy at your next visit to the library. I can promise you will enjoy his adventures just as much as I did. Let's move on to our second book, shall we? Our next book is about Claudette Colvin, who was arrested at the age of 16 simply for doing what was right. This book is her story, Claudette Colvin, Twice Towards Justice by Philip Hughes. I'm sure most of you have heard of Rosa Parks. Well, Colvin was actually the first person to refuse to vacate her seat on a Montgomery bus during segregation. Colvin was arrested, imprisoned, and charged with disrupting the peace and assaulting a police officer, even though she did not resist the police at all upon her arrest. Unjustly prosecuted, Colvin inspired the African Americans in her community to consider a bus boycott. Unfortunately, due to her age and circumstances, many were concerned with having her as the spokesperson of their movement. This was why Rosa Parks was elected or chosen as soon as she had also refused her seat on the bus, to give up her seat on a bus. Claudette was a courageous young woman who faced many difficulties at a very young age. This audio version, read by Cheney Waits, couldn't be a better listening experience. Cheney's performance gives life and depth to the characters she voices. Claudette's story also reminded me of some other courageous women who served America in the past. Women like Abigail Adams, Eleanor Roosevelt, Susan B. Anthony, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Claudette Colvin is and was a hero in her own right. Do you want to be a hero one day? Then I suggest that you learn from another hero's experience by reading about Colvin's life and adventures. I can promise you, you will admire her strength and fortitude just as much as I did. Let's move on to our next story, shall we? Do any of you want to skydive one day? I know I do, and so did America's first black paratroopers. Their story is contained in this book, Courage Has No Color, the true story of the Triple Nickels, America's first black paratroopers by Tanya Lee Stone. This book is full of incredible photographs of these men and the times in which they lived. During the Second World War, African American troops were given menial jobs, and only a very limited number were able to become officers in the military. But when Walter Morris began to lead his black troops through the paratroopers exercises, their morale was raised and they gained the attention of General Ridgely Gaither. Gaither was inspired by their strength and fortitude and chose some to serve in the 55th Parachute Infantry Company, or Triple Nickels. Though the injustices did not end there. The triple nickels served well in the limited opportunities afforded them. Despite segregation and unequal treatment, these men were determined to fight for justice and serve their country. They were thwarted at every turn, never making it to the battlefront during World War II. Only in the last few decades has their fortitude been nationally recognized. These men deserve to be recognized. Let me read an excerpt from the end of this book that will make you perhaps more interested in learning about these men's adventures and their life and historical influence. Here is the quote. Quote, in the words of Walter Morris, quote, we succeeded where we were not expected to succeed, and we overcame the pitfalls that were put there. We overcame. And it's a warm feeling to know that color has nothing to do with it. It's what's in one's heart, one's spirit, and that should be a lesson to all of us. End quote. This book certainly is a fascinating nonfiction work that I did not want to put down. I would encourage that you check it and the other 2 books out at your local library. There are many other resources on courageous men and women who fought for justice in their day that I'm sure you can find at your library. Thank you so much for listening.